Hi there, everyone. So this is God's Silliest Soldier, and I'm gonna be sharing my testimony, how I started to follow Jesus and repent and believe the gospel. Okay, so I'm leaving my face up for this one because this is about me, right? And so you probably want to see what I look like. So first off, I was born in San Francisco in 1995, so I'm almost 30. Um, and I grew up in the actual city of San Francisco. I was born in the actual city of San Francisco. Um, I lived in the Outer Sunset District. And yeah, so that's where I grew up near the beach. And so I was born with a genetic disorder called PKU. And of that genetic disorder, I had the more severe form, and in that expression of it, I had the most severe type. So basically, I couldn't eat protein in its natural form at all. And this is an actual picture of the protein drink I used to drink 3 times a day, 16 ounces each time. Um, yeah, it was pretty nasty. It tasted disgusting. And if it got warm, it tasted even worse. Um, yeah, a couple kids throughout my childhood tried to have it. None of them could have like much more than like a couple sips. But yeah, so this disorder gave me a lot of discipline because I could never eat outside of my diet. I mean, I could if I wanted to, but I actually never broke the diet the whole time I stuck to it. I never ate anything other than medical food, fruits and vegetables. Yeah. And well, of course, candy, stuff like that. Yeah, so that's something that I've struggled with my whole life, but now I take an injection every day and it lets me eat whatever I want. And there used to be side effects for it, but about a year ago, all those side effects went away for some reason. Um, so my dad is an engineer. He's a civil engineer. He's really smart. His background is Irish, but he's American. He's been American, or the family's been American since for a long time, like gold rush times, or a long time. My mom's side of the family is Russian. Her parents are immigrants, my grandparents, and she majored in biochemistry, and she really likes to do organic chemistry. So that's the type of person she is. Very smart. So I went to the best grammar school, which was in the nicest part of San Francisco, the most expensive area. But I lived in the outer Sunset, so I had to drive, or my parents had to drive me 45 minutes every day to get there, to get back. Um, but yeah, that's it on the left, the brick building. And then um, for high school, I went to the best high school in SF. Um, and yeah, they're both Catholic schools, but I just went to those schools because they offered the best education. My cat is being crazy right now. Yeah, and then full disclosure, I went to St. Ignatius High School. It's a Jesuit school. I'm not a Jesuit. I don't subscribe to any of that. I'm not Catholic at all. And then Stuart Hall is a Catholic order of schools called Schools of the Sacred Heart. Um, but it's a very elite school, like a lot of Fortune 500 kids and CEO or Fortune 500 parents, and like they send their kids there, doctors and lawyers. They kind of thought I was like a brokey because my dad was just an engineer and my mom was just involved in sales for a drug company. So that should give you an idea. And I have a lot more to go into, but this is about my testimony, and I'll just kind of like expose more about my life throughout my other sermons and shorts and stuff. So, okay, so once I started to get into high school because of my diet and metabolic disorders, I struggled a lot with grades. And so I started getting bad grades and I started partying and like drinking alcohol a lot. And then I started smoking weed. And then I started listening to Joe Rogan. And then because of that, I started doing psychedelics basically. And yeah, I don't have any like hard feelings for Joe Rogan. I kind of think he's like a clown a little bit, but I'm not like mad. I mean, I chose to do it and all that stuff, but yeah, like I hope like everyone that he changes and stuff that realizes that, his drug addiction is an enlightenment. Yeah, so I started listening to Joe Rogan when I was 16. That would be 2011, So I listened to episode 32 or 23. That was the first episode I listened to. And now if you look, it's like 2,500 and I stopped listening around 12, 13, or 1400 regularly. I listened to every single one. Yeah, and so not because of Joe Rogan, but because of my PKU, learning became difficult and organization and all that stuff. And so I started getting bad grades. And then because of the bad grades, I couldn't play sports at the schools that I went to, which is kind of like the whole reason I was even like trying to go to school was like so I could play sports. So next slide is also when I was 16, I actually read the whole NKJV Bible in like a 24-hour period. I can read really fast. That's like my sort of gift above everything else, basically. I'm good at cooking potatoes too, but I had to work for that. Um, but yeah, so basically in the 24-hour period, I skimmed the entire Bible, and I really mean I skimmed it, but I did read it carefully at parts and stuff like that. I didn't look up really that much of anything. Um, One thing that did catch my eye when I first read it was the word firmament, because even from my grammar school, I knew what that meant. So one of the reasons I didn't really become Christian early on is because I thought it was unscientific and all that stuff. But yeah, so I read the whole thing basically in 24 hours. It wasn't a thorough reading. I definitely paid more attention to the New Testament. It was more digestible, but I enjoyed Genesis, parts of Exodus, Joshua especially. Once I got to David, Elijah, Solomon, Saul, that part of Kings and Samuel and all that, I paid more attention to that. The minor prophets and parts of Jeremiah were kind of hard for me to read. Jeremiah is a really big book. And then the Psalms, I actually read them like pretty much like I slowed down. I just kind of read them all and I was kind of challenged with kind of like God's law and stuff like that. Like, why is this important? Like, because it doesn't seem like anyone believes it. So that's kind of well, that's like kind of my background as far as like when I got introduced to the Bible. Because there was like a Catholic kind of veneer on my childhood, but it was not even like it wasn't like serious or anything. Like we didn't go to church at all, you know. Um, yeah, and so that's when I first got exposed to the Bible. And then because I couldn't do sports with the school, I started training triathlons and MMA. I competed in about 6 or 8 triathlons, and I've done about 8 or 10 jiu-jitsu tournaments. Very middle of the pack for both of those things. Sorry, my cat. I'm gonna throw something at him right now. Hey, stop that. Okay, so yeah, so but this would grow to be an idol in my life. I wanted to be like a, super ninja Jedi, like everyone when they're a, rambunctious teenager. I wanted to be an MMA fighter, a Navy SEAL, and then I'll go on and tell you the other thing I wanted to be in this next slide. So I began working for my cousin's rodeo company the summer of 2013. I spent 3 months on the rodeo trail, setting up rodeos and all that stuff. And then basically, like when I turned 18, most of my friends were pro or amateur bull riders, and so I started riding bulls. I was only in ever like 4 rodeos, and I rode 5 bulls. So sorry, my cat looks like he's about to attack someone. But yeah, basically like get off here. No cats allowed on the shh. Anyway, sorry, he's knocked over a bunch of stuff. Or I knocked over a bunch of stuff. But yeah, basically, so I started riding bulls and I did that 4 or 5 times. And I couldn't like stay focused on one thing. I thought I would do all of them at once, and then I even wanted to join the military, the special forces, not the army special forces. I wanted to well when I was young, when I was in fifth grade, I read a book called Inside Delta Force by Eric Haney, and I wanted to be in Delta Force. And then as you get older, the Navy SEALs seem like sexy and stuff because they're so promoted in Hollywood and books and stuff. And so then I thought I wanted to join Green Team, which is SEAL Team 6. And then so I even went to like a special forces like military camp before they became all hokey and like fake alpha male stuff. But like, yeah, like so I did that. I wanted to be a Pro Bowl rider, MMA fighter, all this stuff. I thought I'd be like Tim Kennedy, but like less douchey and more intelligent. But yeah, that didn't work out, but thank God. So next, I got sent to rehab at 19 because I was smoking way too much weed and I was doing mushrooms every once in a while. I think I did LSD twice, but yeah, so I just backpacked in the mountains of Utah for like 2 months. I got really tough from that. And also from working for the rodeo circuit as a city kid, it's like a big change. And then I got sober after that, basically sober. I like never really smoked weed at the same level. I went from smoking a quarter ounce every 2 or 3 days, sometimes in one day, to like I would maybe smoke like a once a week or once a month, and it just faded away. But I replaced drunkenness with lust, and then this modern era, it can reveal itself in a lot of ways, and it revealed itself in me in like a lot of ways also, but not all of them. But yeah, so um that was that was my first time I faced like the darkness of what sin leaves you with, because the other times I thought I was chasing like enlightenment basically, or like I was trying to enhance my sports career, but with this I was just really just doing it because I wanted to. And so there was no reward really. Yeah, so it would take me to some like dark places and stuff like that. And yeah. So I started running from my problems also by moving to different places. So on the left is Breckenridge, on the right is Fort Lauderdale. And in the year before I got saved, I went to Breckenridge, um, worked and worked out there. And then I went to Fort Lauderdale. I actually didn't work because I was trying to get a visa to go to Russia because I was thinking of joining their military, whatever. Um, that didn't work out. So I ended up in Florida and I got depressed because I was alone and I stopped on my medical diet, but I also started eating whatever I wanted. And so I had a seizure and I ended up in the ICU in Broward County Hospital for 10 days. And I stayed at a hotel for three, and then I took a 7 day train ride to the Bay Area. I went from Fort Lauderdale to New York and then down to DC and then all the way across the country to Emeryville, which is Oakland, for those of you who don't know. So next, so this is like when I got saved. I, on the second or third morning of the train ride, my dreams ended and then I woke up, but I woke up into a vision where I was somewhere else. And before I had the seizure, I started praying like the Our Father prayer over and over again, but like with real intent, like wanting God to like spare my life because I felt myself dying. And so then I woke up in the hospital and etc. But then around this time on the train, and then once I was in the hospital and in the hotel, I started asking myself, like, well, what do I do now? Because like what I was doing, like, has all fallen apart. And then I was just I was ready to receive, basically, is what happened. And so what happened is on the second or third morning of the train ride, my dreams ended, and then I woke up on a slab of stone in like a dark city, right? And then my eyes were closed, but I was seeing from the third person. And in my vision, I basically saw like an 8, 9 foot tall angel, no weapons like this picture, but it was the closest-ish picture of what he looked like. And he was huge and he had huge muscles, right? But he looked perfect. He didn't look freakish. He didn't look like a bodybuilder or like, people who take too many vascularity supplements where their veins are popping out and all that stuff. Nothing like that, right? So he had a decanter of oil and he walked over to me and then he poured the oil into my mouth as I was lying down with my eyes closed. And then I woke up and then I repented of my sins and I believed the gospel. And I was physically and spiritually and emotionally like cleansed. I felt like I was born again, like in that moment of the oil. And then after that happened, I consciously repented of my sins, was born again, and believed in Jesus because that was the only thing that it could have come from, right? And so next, it was a 9 month recovery. It was pretty brutal. I was sleeping like 2, 3, and 4 hours every night, and I was having a lot of spiritual warfare. I was experiencing like parts of like psychosis, basically, where I was like, in I would fluctuate from like fear, crying, rage, like all that stuff. And I got back to my parents' house like a couple days before the lockdown started, at least for San Francisco or whatever. And so, everyone was on lockdown and I didn't really care because I was on lockdown. But I would have left and all that stuff. And even though I wasn't getting much better, I would still go for walks and stuff, and people would have their masks on. They're looking like such clowns. I mean, this is San Francisco during the middle of COVID. I'm sure you can imagine what that was like. It was like stupid and it was hilarious at the same time. Yeah, so then what happened was is I started getting better. I even played touch rugby a couple times with some people from like the schools in the area and stuff. And in that time, I discovered my two favorite ministries from researching Tartaria, whatever you want to call it. And I had heard of Tartaria before because I'm half Russian. Um, so there, it's not the full story either, but it's definitely like known more. It's actually taught in like all the schools. Not that I went to school in Russia, but they also have an ethnic group called the Tatars, and they're the second largest ethnic group in Russia, and they're like kind of like Turkic. They're sort of like white, but Asian, Central Asian kind of looking. Not Asiatic, not like Chinese. Though there is actually a little bit of that, but it's like a different thing. But anyway, so I was researching Tartaria, and then one of their videos came up, and I started watching, and I was like, oh wow, these guys take the Bible how it's supposed to be taken, which is literally, because they take it seriously and they addressed the historical questions through a biblical lens, and they even address like spiritual questions as if they were literally true, which is why I rejected the Bible, among wanting to sin and stuff like that. But I always thought that no one took the Bible seriously enough, including Christians. Um, and I felt like a lot of the points that people made were good, such as like the war in Canaan and all that stuff. But then once you realize, no, monkey, shoot, shoot. Sorry, he grabbed something really important. But anyway, so yeah, so I started watching Now You See TV first, right? And then over time, I started fellowshipping with not a young lady, but a lady who was involved with FOJC. And so she told me like, oh, you like what David says? He has his own channel. And I started watching that. And that's how I got introduced to FOJC. Again, they took the Bible seriously. Everything was kind of taken, it wasn't allegorized, is what I would say. The Bible has, similes and metaphors and parables and stuff like that. But people, when they read the Bible, they don't apply like all the logic they use in their regular lives to how they read the Bible. That when they read the Bible, they pick and choose. When they watch TV or read a book or whatever, then they have discernment. But these guys weren't doing any of that. They were taking it literally, which is how you're supposed to. And then so next, once I got better, I started working out like a psycho again. And basically on the third day, I tore both my arms. I tore the nerves in both my arms. And I was in 9 out of 10 pain for like 2 years. And then after 2 years, it started dialing down. And then even at the end of the third year, it still was uncomfortable, but I could do a semblance of even doing like some odd jobs and drive a little bit just around like for an hour or so, or I'd go on walks. But basically, all I did for 3 years was read the Bible, listen to Bible podcasts, and a lot of them, not just Now You See TV and FOJC. That's how come I came to the choice that these are the two best ministries online. And then what happened was is I would go to doctor's appointments, and then I would spread the word when I could, but it was really hard because I was in so much pain. So all I would do is go to, like acupuncture, massage, laser therapy. I did electro stim. I did like almost everything. I did stem cells and all that stuff. I wasted all my money. Nothing really helped that much. It just gave me like brief relief, but eventually it went away. So yeah, just prayer, reading the Bible, going to doctor's appointments. That was my 3 years. Every day I wanted to end it all. Um, but I just prayed to God that either he would take the pain away, that he would kill me, or that it would be worth it in the end. And God has more than put up with his side of the deal of making it worth it. Oh, and during this time, I actually had to take care of my grandpa for 2 of those years. It was really rough for me. I mean, he ended up dying, but I mean, it was tough because I had to take care of him, but I wasn't doing so good. But now, I'm married. This is my wife, and then that's me. And basically, yeah, like my whole life, I serve God and I serve my wife as best I can, and I preach. Not recently, but pretty frequently at this one church between Gilroy and San Jose. You know where that is in California. Um, right now I'm in a bit of a scuffle with the pastor's son about what I should and shouldn't be saying as far as like, doctrine and like what is sin and stuff like that. But yeah, he doesn't want to alienate people, but I want to speak the truth. And so that's kind of where the conflict is arising from. Yeah, and so life has gone great. I had a 1.6 in high school. I'm in the honors program and I had like a 3.8. Sorry, this is Meow he's like a little crackhead, honestly. I love it though. But yeah, basically like, yeah, so I've got like really good grades. I got like a 3.8 or something, and it could be better, but one of my teachers gave me a C because I did my public speaking topics on how abortion is murder, and then the other one on the gospel. And it was funny because she's supposed to be two positives, two negatives for each speech, right? For me, it was one positive and like six negatives right away, but I don't care. I don't really consider that persecution in a real way. There's orphans and widows in Nigeria, and here Americans are complaining about International Trans Day or whatever, but they just complain because they don't actually do anything. So they like to blow things out of proportion in order to kind of like make it seem like they're being persecuted, but really they're just like the world. You go to most of these Sunday lukewarm churches, even like a lot of Saturday ones, it's basically just it's either like they're Pharisees or they're lukewarm. It's just a pop concert. It's like no doctrine that you wouldn't hear about if you didn't Google it. And so yeah, so I I make it my mission to serve God. I preach when I can, even in my classes. And yeah, God has made me wise and stuff, and that's really good. And but the one thing God did also for me is he gave me a sound mind, which is kind of what allows me to be intelligent, is because I don't um I don't fret over things, and I sort of break stuff down and approach it systematically and all that stuff. And yeah, so God is good. He brought me out of hell, and you know he he made good on his promise. But you got to put him first for sure. Because if you really put him first, if you really say like, I'm willing to die, I am willing to suffer, you know, and then just leave the answer up to God, not think of any reward, that is when I believe that you are rewarded. And then I think even if you do suffer more, it's because God knows you can handle it, or he can help you handle it rather. So it's really a win-win. Stop. Sorry about that. He was attacking my new decal that I'm going to put on. But yeah, so if you liked the story, please like and subscribe, like everyone says. And then comment if you want to. if you want to contact me, write that in the comments and then I'll figure it out. And yeah, so that's it. I encourage everyone to repent, to believe the gospel, to serve God. God equips you once you have faith in God, in Jesus. That's when you're equipped to preach. Some people feel like they need to go to seminary or just go in church long enough or like go to charity long enough or whatever, do something. But what I realized is that um, like you're ready right now. You don't need to wait for something to happen. That's kind of like people have this misunderstanding, kind of this concept where like we're not saved by faith, we're saved by works. But what I mean by misunderstanding is they think that they can just believe, not do anything, live like the devil. Um, Works are a sign of your faith. You can believe and go to heaven, but that's a waste of life, basically. But on the other hand, like your faith is what qualifies you to preach. I mean, there's, in the church context, it's like different, but as far as you talking to your neighbor, your family, your friends, random people in your church, you just scratch me. Um, Whatever, like you're qualified once have believed, right? And then that's not to say that you need you can like just ignore what scripture says or anything, but it's like um if you're faithful with the little that you have as far as your knowledge and your ability to preach, God will give you more. And so I encourage everyone to do that because I was preaching to like whoever would even hear me say like a sentence or two. Like, oh yeah, like it's because of Jesus that I'm able to handle all this pain. So yeah, anyway, I hope everyone has a good one. I'm done. God bless. Have a good day.